It's so awesome to have this community of awesome people that grown into this awesome thing. It's really cold. I'm just out here with no clothes on.
Can you see me? Can you hear me okay?
Daddy, move him on this.
I've got you on two screens.
No, move him, then move that
But
one.
you can hear me, right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, and I can see you too. This is the first time I've ever tried to do this outside of like Jackson, my son.
Oh, really?
So we did one the other night where he was up here and I was downstairs, and it worked. So I'm recording now, so it should record video and audio.
All right. I just redid 19.2 because at 36 you can't run a whole bunch the night before.
Well, it's also 20 degrees outside. What kind of score did you get on 19.2?
So the first time, I ran a loop at Stanky and my light died. And then
At night?
I did it.
What? Okay.
I did it the next morning and I think I got 9 or 10 at 185 and I just knocked it out again after resting this weekend. And I got 4 or 5 at 225, so much better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
I know, man. And it's especially that much running and I'm probably down 15 pounds. Like I can tell.
Look at you. I'm just going to start mirroring you. Like whatever you do, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like my pendulum swings pretty far sometimes.
Yeah.
So I go all in and then I kind of fall off a little bit occasionally. That's okay.
Well, I got no reps of 185.
Oh yeah.
So that means you destroyed me.
Man, it was one of those things. If you're gaming it, that's even if you just get through 185, you get 75 more reps if you just do the gymnastics.
Right. Well, what happened was I got back to the 185 and I missed the first one, and then I was like, man, I gotta get underneath this barbell, and so I tried to drop underneath the bar, and my hands didn't catch the bar, so it just crashed right into my chest, and it hurts like hell. Like still, it hurts really bad.
No way. Man.
I got some good bruises like right across my rib cage. Are you sore at all?
Like, I don't think so, because it wasn't not from that, because it wasn't that many reps.
I think maybe I just need to work out more or something. It's like killing myself and just like sore all the time. It's like I started all over again or something. I don't know. It's really weird.
Maybe you're pushing good.
Maybe so.
Wondered
maybe
about
that's what it is.
Is it perceived effort? And if you're always pushing that envelope and you're just chasing that soreness, I mean, I get sore for sure.
Do you? Okay. So that I was thinking about that earlier. Like, does everybody get like really sore sometimes? Like depending on.
And especially like with better positions, as you get more range of motion. You get, I guess, more sore. Doesn't really sound like a very good way to describe it, but say there's new muscle fibers being used.
Right. Huh.
So, I'm not going to talk mitochondria or anything, but I just know what I feel and what I'm doing.
Well, man, listen, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me. I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know Ole Miss is playing Kentucky in like 45 minutes or so. So you think we're going to lose, but
it'll be fun though.
It will be fun. You still have to watch it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, fan is a fanatic, right?
Yeah, I do not have. This is a great opportunity. I really appreciate you doing my first episode with me.
Is it?
My first interview. This is my first time trying to record a Skype video and audio and all that. So I'm hoping it goes fantastically well. But you're the perfect person to do it. I'm lucky to have a friend like you that, is not only interesting, but if I screw it up, you're not going to get mad at me. So,
nope.
So that's, perfect. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for doing that. So I really don't have a plan for any of these conversations. Really, I really want it to be very authentic. What what I want to do is a couple months ago I realized I'm really interested in like how people improve themselves and how people have gotten to where they are from wherever they started. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, you don't ever really hear a lot of people talk about how great they are and all the money they make and like all the great things they do, but nobody ever really talks about, hey, like I made this kind of change to do this kind of to get this kind of result. You know what I mean? And like I really think there's a lot to be told with a lot of people in that regard where hey man, where are you now? Like you're a business owner, you're a army ranger, like you like whatever it is, like you
Don't
weren't
insult the Rangers, gosh.
where you weren't always that way. It's funny that you're the first person I'm talking to on this podcast, but you were there when I started my journey, and I wandered into your gym and you were a huge part of me being successful in fitness and business and entrepreneurship and all kinds of other areas of life. So it's great to be able to have the first conversation with you about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny you say it like that. I can almost see like our journeys forming an X, kind of intersecting, because you talk about your first journey coming into that gym. Well, I was on my own separate journey at that time, and then I probably went one way where you were at one point, and you went kind of where I was.
Right.
You started the gym stuff as I was kind of getting out of the gym stuff, so to speak. I've always been in it and around it, but it certainly wasn't. The priority list changed for me.
Well, that was probably 10 years ago now when I first met you. I mean, where were you at that point? Where I guess you were in the Army at that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the phrase that pops in my head is kind of like stupid kid phase.
Right.
I mean, that was
well, how old are you now?
36.
36. So you were probably mid 20s.
Yeah, 25. Yeah. I mean, that was I was willing to take all the risk, and there was no drawback to risk for me. And that's what it was.
Well, I'll tell you what it looked like to me from that perspective it was awesome. Like I loved everybody at the gym, but it was a pretty dumpy gym. Like nobody I didn't think wow, these are a bunch of successful individuals. What I thought from my perspective was these are really cool guys that I want to impress, and I want these guys to think I'm cool, but it never occurred to me that you were super successful.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? At that point,
truth be told, there was I can't remember kind of the exact amount of time, but we didn't even call it a business for some time. I mean, people came and go, people came and went. They gave us money, maybe. Everybody had maybe a different price. Maybe half of them didn't give us money, and then one day it was kind of like, well, maybe we should have a business. So.
Well, that's pretty common with CrossFit, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Like especially at the time. I think when you guys opened, the affiliate fee was probably even $500 or something super ridiculous.
Bucks. Yeah, and that's a great piece of it that is an easy barrier to entry and allows a lot of people to get into business.
Right. And so it was easy for a guy in his mid-20s that didn't have a lot of money to just make that kind of thing happen.
I was single rich for sure. Probably living a very low rent in one of my mom's houses. Had army money, army job, so that helped. I mean,
right.
And I was afraid to pull out the credit card. I wouldn't recommend that now, but it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the initial investment.
Yeah. So, you mean using credit?
Yeah.
Using credit to just keep things going and that kind of thing.
Yeah, all the equipment and and then there was no equipment sourcing. We made a lot of it.
Things were way different back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was
absolutely.
Those were way different times. Like I don't guess you even had Rogue.
Nope.
Right.
I think the first one was Garage or something like that. G2G or Garage to Gym, something like that. Gym to Garage.
Huh. Well, it's crazy. Like, what was the next, what jumped you from that point to, you guys were the first CrossFit gym in Memphis,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but, and I was lucky to be a small part of it, but you guys jumped from like that really shitty gym to like a really big
Yeah.
gym. Like it was
Yeah.
like, it was
Yeah.
not, it was no small jump. Like
Yeah.
it was like really happening, you
Yeah.
know, like
Hold,
what,
hold that thought.
yep,
I'm
yep.
back.
So what I was saying was, and I was there I was there from almost the beginning. Like it was really early when I started working out at your gym, but then it just kind of exploded like
Mm-hmm.
into this thing where it was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like the news was at the gym, like people were everywhere. I remember we had this one fundamentals class where you were asking people to come help because
Yeah.
there were like 70 people in this one class.
Yeah.
You know, like what happened to go from like nothing to, did it have to do with just CrossFit in general, or
I think, yeah, I think so. I mean, with so to speak, minimal competition, that certainly helps, and we were fortunate for that. But yeah, just CrossFit in general, health and wellness blew up, and it's like flies to a light, you know.
right?
And then we just had, between Mike, Doug, and I like to think we knew what we were doing. We had it going on, and there was very value added, and by reputation, it spread.
Right. And I think that definitely had a lot to do with it. Like the three of you guys really, it was apparent that you knew what you were doing, you know, and you, even though like, you like the first day I met you or something, you told me I should run a 50-mile race. and like, and that was, it seemed insane, but obviously
Yeah.
you saw something that would eventually work itself out, or you had just confidence that you could get me to that place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's my pendulum probably a little bit.
right.
You know?
Yeah. And I will say that you never went and ran with me until this year. So
I know, man, I can't believe it. When you made that comment, I was like, man, that is wild. But I was going to make it happen. I mean,
yeah,
there was nothing that was going to stop me this year.
well, so we've experienced a lot of different things together. And I'm just like super fortunate to have been a part of your team along the way. And there was one point I was working a lot with you guys in the gym, and then started the podcast and all that kind of stuff, and just kept working with you. And then I ended up losing my job, which was like terrible for me. Like it was like the worst thing ever. And then I just immediately kind of just came to you guys like, oh my gosh, I lost my job. What am I going to do? And so, between you and Mike and Doug, I got the mentorship to like open up a gym. Here's what you need to do: open up the gym, and then you ended up hiring me to work for Barbell Shrugged, and like that's one of the things, like you a lot, like I want to share tips with people, but like people lose their jobs or are afraid to quit their jobs or whatever.
Right.
And like, it's just a scary, scary thing. And it was really bad for me as well. But I remember talking to you on the phone in my kitchen one time, and I probably told you this before, but you called me and said, okay, I can hire you. Like you're going to get a check from now on every month. And I was like, I was like in tears, like, so it's just like, wow. I did kind of take this step out to like take a risk, and although it was very scary, like it wasn't too long before it paid off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what, you were probably badge number 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, so kind of backing up to your, providing you help with the gym, a lot of that's credit to Doug for writing everything down essentially.
Right.
He was really good at documenting everything.
Yeah.
If I back up kind of a little bit further, as far as attracting people, that was kind of Mike's unique ability, was, just being goofy, and people were attracted to him.
Right.
And going out and getting that newspaper article and, talking to people and communicating and getting the word out about the gym.
Right. And y'all were lucky in that respect to have that team with unique abilities, but at the same time, like as a person going into just having when I opened my gym, it was just me and another guy. And we didn't really have that. But at the same time, being able to see the things that y'all were doing, I could take away from what y'all were doing and know, oh no, that's a terrible idea, because I know I've already seen people kind of try this or do this thing. You know what I mean? So good, because it was even though you guys all had these strengths and all that kind of stuff together, you did try stuff that didn't work. So and I was fortunate enough to be able to see some of that, and I think that's helped me and having my gym, and not even just the gym, but just running a business in general.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not afraid to make all those mistakes and then make sure to share them. I mean, we made all the mistakes. Absolutely. And maybe that's a badge of honor in a way. But it's if the true mission and what we're doing is, helping people with health and wellness, the bigger the community, the better. So share away.
So tell me more about the Army. Like that's like a really interesting thing to me. Like how does that work into your life, and like what effect, like do you think that like that has had some effect on how successful you've been or whatever? I mean, because I get a lot of stuff. I feel like I get a lot of lessons learned from you because, oh, well, that's just because, he's in the Army. It's like,
I mean, it depends on how you want to define your success. I take every moment in every season, and it's a choice whether it's a success or failure. I generally don't view things as a failure. If I'm looking at the Army, compared to my peers, maybe in the civilian workforce and just civilian environment, it's put me behind.
Oh, really?
But if I'm looking at skills learned and opportunities, experiences, I mean, it's amazing. I really joined for the best leadership training in the world, and I started at the very bottom intentionally. I was enlisted for a while. I did the private thing, and then I commissioned as an officer, and it's just gone from there. And just this last year or two, I've kind of turned around and been like, holy smokes, I've been in 14 years. Like, this is nuts.
Wow.
I mean, I love it. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, the opportunities to not necessarily to travel, but to experience travel and be around good soldiers.
And speak other languages.
Yeah. I mean,
like you can speak Arabic, right?
I use the skills. I know how to tie lots and knots. I can pick locks and handcuffs. It's great.
Yeah.
Dangle from helicopters, jump out of helicopters. And, another, like a little deeper thing for me, and being in an airborne unit and a soft unit, just that, I mean, it sounds silly, maybe a slightly kind of masculine thing, but just like going and jumping all the time or kind of doing dangerous stuff just reminds you of your kind of morality a little bit. And for me, it helps keep me more grounded.
Right.
And every time I land on the ground with all my bones intact and, air in my lungs, I'm like, cool. All right. Are we doing what we want to do?
That has to translate into normal everyday life.
Yeah.
Into a strength, right?
Yeah.
Like where
it creates a mindset.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like a lot of people that don't have those and I say this about fitness too. A lot of people that don't have that experience walk into a boardroom and they're like anxiety and can't handle the situation, but I think a lot of that kind of stuff just makes you okay with kind of being like, whatever the situation is, especially in a business setting, like there's nothing that can happen inside this office that's going to really set me off because I've jumped out of a helicopter, or whatever.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. I didn't start running for this reason, but going through selection and doing really hard things, I'm like, man, I've walked 50 miles on my feet before. This isn't a big deal. Just keep going. So that, that civilian stuff is applied to military training and vice versa.
Well, tell me about what your life is like today. Like, what do you so you're still owning a CrossFit gym, right?
Yep.
And
all in.
And you're still enlisted in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry if I say stupid words like enlisted. I don't even know if that's the right thing to say, but and you go to work every day, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
what's your day like?
Oh
usually?
man, I try to start as early as possible. Just like you, no one can take that 4 to 6 hour from you.
Oh, that's definitely true. Yes.
Unless it's an infant, maybe, but.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, for sure, you could have sick kids or whatever, but like if you get up at between 4 and 5 and go to the gym or whatever, there's no excuse for you to not do that other than I'm just being lazy.
Yeah, yeah, and
So,
and just where are your priorities? We have that tendency, and I feel it too. You kind of get upset or angry that you didn't accomplish something, but then if I zoom out and look at it realistically, I'm like, well, it just really wasn't high enough priority, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Well, that's actually something I thought about asking you about earlier today when I was thinking about talking to you, is zooming out and looking at what you've actually done, because I've had a hard 2017 kind of sucked for me, and I kind of got into this place where I was like, nothing I'm doing is working. Like everything sucks, like I haven't really done anything. But if you pull out and go, whoa, look at actually the things that I've done.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
and like, do you think that most people are like that? Like, do you ever get into that situation where you're like, man, just this shit isn't working and I got to change something, and then you step back and go, well, holy shit, like look at all the experiences I've had and all the things that I've been able to create. Like, do you think that's a normal thing?
I don't know if it's normal. I don't want to say there are a whole lot of people that don't have an abundance mindset or don't work hard or are really driven, but I think they're, for people like you and I, we're harder on ourselves, and it's harder to be reflective of those things. And that morning hour is great for that. I do the same thing. I mean, I'm like, man, I've got so many more goals left, but the goals are going to always keep coming.
Right.
But I'm way more intentional about being grateful and thankful and reflecting on what I have done. And like, that's pretty cool.
I think it's important to like make sure that you're spending time being grateful for like what you have done and like the things that are going on around you that are very positive.
Yeah. And that's, and that's probably just because that's our normal, that's our baseline maybe. So I'm not gonna, if we're not all gonna have the same baseline.
Right.
So I don't look at it negatively on other people. And it's funny you say like 2017 was rough. I feel like, and I wish we could pull it up, there was some Facebook post where you said something and maybe you remember it. I was like, man, you're kind of a mentor to me.
No.
You commented back or something, right? You said something like sometimes your mentors need to be let them know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you remember what that was?
And I don't remember exactly. I know the feeling for
maybe
sure.
You can find that post, but
yeah, I'll have to go back and look for it.
I'm pretty sure that was probably about 17.
Yeah. And that's part of a huge thing for me is when you tell me like, oh my gosh, like when you said that thing, or I look at you as a mentor or whatever it is. Like, I'm like, man, that makes me feel so good. You know what I mean? Like and that's another point where you're like, man, you really are making an impact on people. Like, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but like if you're in a spot where you're like, just nothing I'm doing is making any kind of difference, like just kind of step back and go, okay, let's look at this objectively and go, man, I really am making an impact on at least, even if it's just one person,
Right. And just, you're only looking through that one lens.
Right.
And there are a whole lot of lenses looking back or looking around. So just don't get too wrapped up in your own filters.
Right.
And just, I just take the moment as they come, and just ask myself, what am I learning from this? What am I being trained on right now?
Right.
Is it trying to get my 10-year-old to do her math homework and I'm being trained on patience? I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Right.
That's what I always ask myself. There's some value in it. And that's just through, trials, tribulations, experiences.
I feel like that I'm almost to that point. Like I understand exactly what you're saying, but it was really hard to get, really, really hard to get here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but
I
don't know.
And it's funny. It's like when when you're in that trying time and you look back and you're in the frame of the picture and it's terrible and horrible, and then you come out of it and you look back and you're like, man, honestly, I wouldn't have done it a different way.
Right.
Probably wouldn't. I'm glad I did it because.
And actually, I wasted way too much anxiety and energy worrying about it.
Yeah,
like,
and the best example is that Alan Watts, The Dream. If you go look that up on YouTube and watch that little video.
Okay.
He sums it up better than I ever could. But,
well, I'll definitely go look that up because I don't know what you're talking about.
Find it.
There's the nugget in the episode right there.
Yep.
So what about books? Because you've done a lot of stuff, like, at least from my perspective, like you've done a lot of like business coaching or received a lot of business coaching from a lot of high level people and read a lot more books than I have and whatever, just on a different level than I am. But like, what do you got for, like, what's the one book you would say everybody needs to read? This book.
Golly, man. I'm just going to throw a couple of them out there, but The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, As a Man Thinketh. It's like 25 pages.
The whole thing is 25 pages? Yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, it's an older book, and you read it. When I first read it, I was like, man, they were thinking the same exact stuff. There's
how long ago was that?
That one was probably 1800s, but I mean, obviously,
oh, wow, okay.
Romans and Greeks go further. So and that's a good reminder too. None of our problems, I don't want to say aren't unique, but a lot of it's happened. A lot of just general relationships kind of follow the same pattern.
Right.
So don't get too wrapped up into it.
Right. They're definitely not unique. I mean, we have all this technology and stuff now, but I guarantee you, like, all those old people from the beginning of time were like suffering from, I don't think I'm doing good, like, or something, you know what I mean? Like beating themselves down for whatever reason. It might be a different thing today, but it's always been the same of, I'm not good enough. I'm not.
And in the same vein, like, if we beat ourselves up and we have that kind of inner monologue and that inner dialogue, I can always remind myself, like, the good times won't last forever and the bad times won't last forever. So I'm just going to take advantage of what I can. If I can be sad, I can be happy, and just again, it's a choice on what you want to let kind of dominate your thoughts.
Yeah.
So hopefully you choose the happier thoughts or the more positive thoughts.
Yeah. It's crazy how easy that is. And I'm learning that just in the last few months of, like, well, why am I even worried about it? It doesn't matter. Like, the thing is, like you said a second ago, like, what am I learning from this? Like, next week I'm going to tell somebody a story about how I was worried about this thing that ended up teaching me something that I would have never known if that situation had not happened. Even though in the moment I'm like, man, this really sucks. It's terrible. Yeah. But what you can do is, during those times, you can actually go, wait a minute. This is not I don't need to have a bunch of anxiety about this.
Mhm.
I'm going to learn something from this situation.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
So-
one of my favorite sayings. And I think it's like a Ryan Reynolds movie. Someone out there will correct me, but worrying's like a rocking chair. It gives you to something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere, kind of
Okay. I'm
deal.
gonna look that one up.
And if I go back to like joining the Army and wanting to get the best leadership training, naturally I lead as an introvert. So, being really outgoing and getting up in front of people and things like that was not a natural tendency of mine.
Really?
But I also have a pretty high risk tolerance. So what works for me is to throw myself in the fire. And going back to priorities, it's like, well, I want to be this person. I want to be this great leader or this thing. And it's like, okay, I want to be that person, but what am I actively doing to get there? And a lot of times we're not doing anything. We're just sitting there dreaming about it.
Right. That's for
So,
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to suggest everyone go join the Army, but, I want to do things more like this. So you made that post. I was like, sign me up. We'll see what happens. So,
Right. I think that's a really good thing for me to say that I've taken away from you in the last 10 years is I would never bring something stupid up to you if I knew the answer is going to be, well, just go do it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, but I had this reason why I wasn't supposed to do that,
Yeah.
So from me to you, I could say, man, thank you for being that thing where, well, if I asked Rob about this, he's just going to tell me to suck it up and go do it,
Yeah.
or just sign up for it, or just, just keep going,
Yeah.
So that's
and
it sounds cliche, but like it really works.
well, cliches I've learned they're very true a lot of times.
A lot of times, yeah.
So have at it. But yeah, and sometimes, I mean, that's an inner kind of struggle I have with myself. Like, I believe in people. I want it more for them than they want it for themselves a lot of times.
Right.
I'll be aggressive and encouragement and like, hey, go do this thing. It's awesome. You can do it. And then sometimes I catch myself like, okay, well, that person doesn't respond really well to that. Well, then the question I ask myself from that is like, well, am I not being true to myself if I'm not just that person? Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but sometimes I'm like, am I being overly encouraging? Do I need to back off a little bit, or do I just go with me?
Well, I think it's awesome that you just think that way.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's a whole lot of people that just by default think that way.
Yeah.
I think most people are just internally just caring about themselves and how their feelings are and making up stories about what the other person thinks.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even worried about. They're not even worried about like, oh well, how can I make this person in this particular situation? How can I make this person react better or just become a better person or whatever?
Right. Or just encourage them.
So just the fact, how do you, okay, so we're almost at 40 minutes. So how do I, that's a really good takeaway. And I think I've taken that away from you, having known you, is how do I go from being, oh my gosh, everything sucks, to being the person that's like, okay, how can I fix this situation, or how can I learn from this situation? Like, what do you think the thing is? What's the biggest thing that people can do to not be that negative, everything sucks person, to changing their perspective to, okay, I can make this work. What can I learn from this situation?
Yeah. I mean, that's just being honest with yourself. And not, you mentioned earlier about, people talking about themselves or, flaunting their successes. And to me, that's kind of just white noise. That's to distract them from who they really are.
Right.
So that's where that morning hour comes in, and just going inside and unpacking stuff and peeling onions back or peeling the layers of that onion back.
Yes.
And being comfortable with yourself. I can't think of a better way to do it.
That morning hour, are you talking about at the gym maybe even?
Yeah.
Or just even just getting up?
I get up before then and read, or,
yeah,
meditate, whatever works for you. Go for a walk.
Right. I like to go to the gym that early, and it's weird because, like, especially in CrossFit gyms, like, they want to socialize and talk. but I'm like, I don't want, this is my
It's your time.
this
Yeah.
is my time, and I'm here to squat heavy and be in my little zone for this one little hour. And that makes a huge difference throughout my day. Like if I go and I just don't really talk to anybody, just go and work out, go hard, go home, take a shower, go to work. My day is like, boom.
Yeah. And maybe this is, just years of experience, but for me, like running, yeah, great. It's physically, it's awesome. I love it. But like mentally, I just fall into it so naturally. I never run with music, always run in nature. And that's what does it for me. That gives me that opportunity to go through whatever's going through my head and listen, having that conversation and listening to yourself instead of creating all that noise or you gotta have that conversation. So I've had not all, but I've had a lot of breakthroughs just running. I've been running down the trail and just stopped and been like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Well, that's okay. I'm just going to let that go and then just pick it back up.
I've done the same thing, especially don't run on the road, go into the woods. Like I feel
absolutely.
like you have to go into the woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a good 10-mile run in the woods can solve so many problems.
Yeah. And today would have been a perfect day to run. I looked out the window all day, and it's like that. It goes against our survival instinct, but to put yourself kind of in crappy conditions so you can, take a cold shower so you can be more grateful for the warm shower.
Right.
Go on a cold day in the mud so you can be a little, not take it for granted. So it's just the smallest small things. And maybe, I'm a little over analytical, a little overthinker, but I believe in it. It works for me.
Well, there you go. I think that's it. That's awesome, dude. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me, and the game is going to start in about 20 minutes.
Let's do it. And my last passing thought is, if you're driving down the road and the sun's going down or it's coming up, stop and take it in. I do it all the time, but just do it.
Yes, we don't do that enough for sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, all right, Rob. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate you talking to me. My first interview.
We'll do it again. I'll get Kurt down here too.
Oh, yes. We're going to do that for sure.
All right, man. Hotty toddy.